might bring me to start streaming some Road to the Show.
Yeah, I tried to look at it a little bit last year and just wasn't interested in it like other YouTubers were doing for the content.
Oh, I mean, it's solid but it was solid bare bone. Like, the concept of last year's was bare bones, but so much was done wrong or not quite as correct, and I think they've done a little bit more in correcting it.
Yeah, it's always good to have change on things and improve. There's always room for improvement no matter what it is.
Yep. So they basically have done like a great job of putting together and setting themselves up for corrections and listening to the community, unlike certain other sport game communities.
Yeah, god dang, my cough.
I was actually going to say 2K. I was going to say 2K.
I feel like both are equally pretty bad. I mean, yes, there's 2K has done better with their visuals, but Madden has just been piss poor all around the board.
Oh yeah. Actually, I will say that their scouting thing for their franchise mode is not bad, but I think it's only like one small little brick. It's one like it's just a set of like bricks to lay a foundation.
Yeah.
So
all right, when do you want to start? Because I was thinking we could probably start here in a sec.
Yeah, whenever we feel like we're ready.
Any other news before we kick it off?
I just put in breaking news on the Bruce Arians thing. The Patrick Peterson one is not that important because it's a re-signing.
Yeah. A lot of people are like on the Twitter pages that I follow for the Chiefs were saying, "Oh, I bet you he's gonna sign with the Chiefs," and I'm just sitting here like, no, we're trying to get James Bradbury IV and possibly sign Stephon Gilmore. We've been talking about this for the past week, and it's really bothering me because I'm just like, sign the man already, goddammit. Like,
who? Pat Pete or Tyrann Mathieu?
Stephon Gilmore.
Oh, Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, because I want him. It'd be ideal to have Stephon Gilmore, James Bradbury, and Tyrann Mathieu on the same team, but I'm not gonna be sad if he leaves, but at the same time, I'm a bit like torn because he was a big part of the Super Bowl 54 championship run that we had.
Yeah.
And he was a really good leader. Even though he's like very loud on Twitter and other social media, he's not afraid to at least speak his like mind, even if it like angers people or like is controversial.
Right. All right.
All right, start us off, Menace.
Kicking off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ruckus and the Menace podcast. I'm Menace the Menace.
And I'm Ruckus.
And today we bring you a whole bunch of sports, including some breaking news in the NFL, some small recaps on college basketball, talking about one of our major topics this week, bringing you back down into memory lane with some sports history, and have a fun little war room challenge for you. But first, Ruckus, how have you been doing all this week? I mean, 1 week away from recording.
Sorry, already talking over you. My specialty. Busy. I've been really busy with work, but other than that, when I have time to after work to play games, I do that. And when I'm on my breaks at work, I'll pretty much just look at Twitter and see what the news is, whether it's like transactions for baseball, football, basketball. Like I'm very curious. I'm a very curious person when it comes to people going on the move, no matter like who the player is and what position. But I really, really am just been eyeing the Chiefs when it comes to free agency. But I recently beat Dying Light 2 on PC. It's alright. There's a lot of bugs if you try to play co-op, but other than that, the game, as far as combat, was pretty spot on.
All right. Well, as for me, I mean, I'm also a gamer myself, and earlier this week I finished Horizon Forbidden West and have started now Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So kind of to get a little like non-sporting gaming involved with that. I've caught up with various TV shows such as Bel Air. I mean, not going to go into any other things involving that subject.
By the way, can I interrupt really quick? I forgot to say I've been watching a lot of Euphoria, pretty good show. Other than that, I didn't know the new Kirby game came out.
Yeah, that actually released this past Friday. I've enjoyed it so far. It was a little more linear than what I was thinking of, but I mean, it's a Kirby game. They're normally very linear. But I have been having fun with it. That's something I'll take over for and working on stuff for another pod, but that's just some part of my yearly little shtick. But my girlfriend will be in town for this weekend, so I may not be able to catch as much of some of the final four, like maybe the final four matchups, but we'll be ready to go for the national championship whenever that time comes around. So I'm in an interesting place right now. So just kind of a whole lot of things and along, working at like figuring out all my plans for my girlfriend and I to be celebrating 1 year of dating, and
congratulations, man.
just the
I
next
hope it
things
goes well.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you. But Ruckus, we want to kind of go right into the breaking news that we have going on that we just kind of found out no more than about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, we could try and get that breaking news out of the way. Do you want to start it off, or do you want me to bring it up?
Well, that was almost not going to matter that much. But here's what it is: that Bruce Arians has chosen to step away from his head coaching role as a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization in a move to the front office. So Todd Bowles, who was the defensive coordinator there and was at one time the Jets head coach, will be taking over the head coaching. Will be taking over the head coaching role. Bowles definitely coming from the Dungy line, I believe. Bowles coming from the Dungy line, so it's another little coaching tree that has been around primarily with Dungy since like the late '90s, and has really Dungy came in learning from Chuck Noll back in the '80s. So another one for that coaching tree.
I sure do miss Tony Dungy, though. I only really see him on the NBC newscast, but I loved him as an Indianapolis Colts coach.
Yep. But now, what does this do for Tampa Bay? Do you feel like it really does a whole lot, a little, maybe nothing at all?
I personally think it brings a new opportunity for Todd Bowles, for sure, with Tom Brady, and who knows who's going to be the defensive coordinator in the future, and it definitely brings more holes to be filled by other future head coaches and or just coaches in general, whether it's defensive, offensive, quarterbacks coach, you name it. It's just a very different changing time, especially when you have players going to different places for more money. You have announcers like Al Michaels and Herbstreit getting new contracts. You got Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, which I don't like this move with Monday Night Football because I'm probably gonna have like 4 or 5 times where the Chiefs are gonna be on there, and I'm gonna have to listen to Joe Buck go, and it's caught for a touchdown, and then everybody's just like, shut up, Joe.
I mean, it's bad enough listening to MLB playoff commentary with Joe Buck.
Or like listening to Matt Vasgersian. Like, that man just sounds way too like hungry for what he does. Sometimes he just needs to shut up. In general, people like that are sports broadcasters, and even like sometimes I need to shut up, but here we go.
Yeah, but you kind of jumped the ship a little bit, like maybe going a little bit further than where we were wanting to go topic-wise, but let's reel this back in. But I really think that this Bruce Arians move I don't think it's going to do a whole lot of difference because the continuity in the coaching staff is still going to remain somewhat intact. I don't know necessarily what's going to come from the defensive side of it, or if Bowles is going to change something on the offensive side or just leave it to his offensive coordinator. But the quarterback there still, at this current moment, despite what conspiracy theories may say, is Tom Brady. And there's not much that's going to change.
I'm pretty sure Tom was doing the play calls anyways, and then Bruce Arians was just kind of feeding off of that. So who knows what Todd Bowles is going to change, like you said, but I think it's probably going to be about the same, just with a new face.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I just don't think too much changes in Tampa on a net basis. Will some strategy kind of change around, maybe with what Todd Bowles is doing and having to focus on both sides of the ball instead of just one? If anything, it's probably going to be ever so slight, but beyond that, we'll see how that goes. And we'll even see how they draft. I mean, this all fortunately is coming along before OTAs kick in, so there's plenty of time to adjust.
And other news from
let's continue with the NFL and go right into what you were trying to say there, because before, as Ruckus was accidentally getting a little bit ahead of himself, the Al Michaels Kirk Herbstreit Thursday Night Football Amazon Prime thing, and Joe Buck and Troy Aikman leaving Fox. Both Fox and NBC have now announced their play-by-play replacements, at least for right now. Kevin Burkhardt will be taking over the premier announced team for Fox as the play-by-play announcer. And the replacement for Aikman still currently is to be determined, but speculation currently, from what I've read so far, has led that former NFL tight end for the Bears and Panthers in Greg Olsen as the leading candidate. NBC already had Collinsworth, or as I like to call him, Chris Cringensworth. But NBC already had kind of their replacement in line, and it was, as expected, Mike Tirico. So what are your thoughts on some of these announcer and team changes?
I really like Greg Olsen as a sports announcer. I didn't really watch a lot of his film and as a tight end, but hearing him not only on the Pat McAfee show like last week, and just hearing how he just talks and his like composure and just everything, he sounds like a genuine person, and he's not just trying to like, it feels like he just really can speak out of his mind and not just have a lot of filler. It just doesn't feel like there is much filler from him compared to other announcers out there.
And it's not like Tony Romo where he's like, oh, this is what's going to happen right before it's like, it's not Romostradamus over here.
I feel like there's a disconnect with Romo because it reminds me every time he like goes on a tangent, it reminds me of him at the phone in the Corona extra commercials.
Oh gosh. Oh my. I knew that was all of a sudden
Anyways,
gonna come up.
I definitely would rather take Greg Olson on Monday Night Football than Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, because I remember last year Troy Aikman was talking to Joe. He was like, "Joe, I think they need to learn how to do uh, establish the run." And the team that he was talking about wasn't even like running the ball. They were just like trying to get to just like pass the ball all the time. And Aikman's like, I think they need to establish the run. And sometimes I'd hear my dad joke about it. He's like, I think they need to establish the run, don't you think? And I was just like, I think we're on to something.
That's the point where all of a sudden I just think like, duh. Duh.
And like Chris Collingsworth, yes, he can be much as far as just an announcer, but I mean, I would rather take Chris Collingsworth and Al Michaels any day over Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Yes, they will talk and be filler or just make some controversial statements out there, but I'd rather have them than Joe Buck because Joe, whenever he was announcing the Chargers Chiefs game, he was saying that he wasn't going to say something, and then he did about a tight end that had a very serious injury concerns, and that
now
really pissed me off.
Now when it comes to Chris Collinsworth, now here's a guy that needs to get out of the booth. I am not a Chris Collinsworth guy. I honestly really think that Mike Tirico is a great announcer, a great play-by-play guy, but I think he's better paired with, strange enough for me to say it, Drew Brees.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Drew Brees speak like as if he belongs in the booth.
In general, Drew Brees is just a class act, and Mike Tirico is also a class act as far as I know. But like Tirico, as far as a person that I've seen, like even like beyond football broadcasts, like the Olympics, I've seen him most in, and sometimes on the news whenever I decide to watch it. Um, they both seem like very composed human beings that can just have a general conversation, and they don't feel like they're gonna fill. Just like I've been saying all along with just in general announcers and broadcast booth people, like sometimes you're just sitting there at home on your lazy boy, and you're just like, can these two just or three could like just shut up for 1 second and like think of something meaningful? And then there's times where you're just like, whatever, I'm used to it.
Yep. Well, let's stay in the NFL here and go with a major NFL change as far as teams and their coaching staffs. The NFL now has expanded the Rooney Rule to require all teams effective this season to have at least one minority assistant on the offensive side of the ball as far as coaching staff. This now will also include women. I mean, we've been seeing a trend with this over the last few years with having women being able to coach up these NFL players. And the reason why they chose the offensive side of the ball, as more often than not, offensive assistants have a great chance of being promoted in the NFL. Well, my thought in this is with all the rules that you established to rig it toward the offense and high scoring, duh. Duh. Like, it's a no-brainer why you would choose the offensive side of the ball for that.
Yeah, and there's just more opportunity, like you said. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like this change. It's good for the sport, and it builds more trust into the sport and into the people. Because the past few years, Eric Bieniemy has been trying to get a head coaching job and has been turned away. probably due to characteristics besides just his the color of his skin or what people are just saying out there on the internet. Like people are saying, "Hey, this guy is like not very good when it comes to certain characteristics as far as just being respectable or respecting the players or even respecting the front office." I don't believe any of that stuff because, like, at the end of the day, he's has a job and he's trying to do it, and not everything on the internet is true. That's all
Or
I'm
he
gonna
could
say.
be just a Andy Reid guy,
Yeah.
where it could be one of those things where, okay, Andy Reid all of a sudden says it's time for me to hang it up, and he decides to hang it up, and Bieniemy is right there. The Kansas City franchise already knows who he is. He's going to be able to incorporate a lot of those same things that he brought in. Maybe that time could be coming sooner rather than later. We never know.
Maybe Andy Reid needs to lay off the Whataburger or something. I don't
Wait, you got
know.
Whataburgers over there in Missouri?
We have them in
Kansas?
Kansas City. We actually got two now. So we had one in Lee Summit, and now we have one in Overland Park. So I'm
Yeah,
very happy about that.
never had the opportunity to get one because I'm over here on the East Coast. We got Five Guys.
Do you have In-N-Out over there, or is that a California thing?
That is a West Coast thing.
Okay, I didn't know who all had In-N-Out, but I do know that Whataburger is in Kansas, Arizona, and Texas, as far as I
Yeah.
know.
All right. Well, let's keep it in Missouri here and talk about a soon-to-be farewell tour going on in the Loop, as Albert Pujols will be playing his final season in his age 42 year on a single-year deal for the St. Louis Cardinals. This, to me, it's like an "I'm not crying, you're crying" type thing, because Pujols has always been one of my favorite players, like throughout my teenage years and kind of that type of thing. And being able to see him play live kind of does mean a lot. That this actually is his final season, going back to the team that he brought really two World Series to, just kind of says a lot.
I remember playing as his character in Backyard Baseball and in MLB 2006 on EA. I don't remember what they called it at that time, but I just remember seeing him on the cover and then just hitting the cover off the ball there. And there was a moment when I went to go see him live against the Royals of all teams, because they share the same borders. Watching him hit a home run out of the park was probably the most impressive thing I've ever seen out of a young human being and talented hitter in Albert Pujols. Now that he's in his 42 season, I don't think he's really 42, because there's speculation saying that he's older and he like lied,
Yeah.
but really he looks like a 50-year-old. Just saying.
But Dominican players have had that reputation. I mean, Miguel Tejada did it.
Really?
I mean, these international players have had a reputation of lying about their age. Normally, to lie toward the younger side, so and when they're actually a little bit older. That's normally been a case. That's normally been a case that we've kind of noticed across multiple lines of it.
Okay.
But but that but that's kind of but that kind of shows that, really, I mean, these international baseball players they're willing to do whatever it takes, even lie about their own age, to kind of try and make a better life for themselves.
Yeah, I'm happy for him, and I also feel that Zach Greinke, which is not on this news list, could possibly have his farewell season as well. But who knows?
True,
It
true.
sounds like he wants to do a couple more years, but I think it's his time to go with, and it would be perfect to be with the team that played his beginnings with.
I think he's got about two solid years left, actually. I think that with his fastball velocity not being as fast, he's not putting as much torque and much stress on his arm. So, I mean, think some of these pitchers that were throwing it a little bit slower actually pitch for longer.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like the times that Alex Gordon was saying he wasn't going to retire and everybody was speculating about it. And he was like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll just see. But anyways, you
But the
ready for some sports
last,
history, or are you...
we had one more major story. I mean, that breaking news kind of came in at the last possible second before we actually started recording. But
All good.
unfortunately for the major Cinderella, who was the first 15 seed to ever reach the Elite Eight, the clock struck midnight. St. Peter's lost in the Elite Eight game after their historic run to North Carolina, with the Final Four being containing college basketball's Blue Bloods and Duke, UNC, Villanova, and Kansas. We will have a little bit more on that later when we get to our Prognosticator Corner segment. But let's now kind of take ourselves back down memory lane here. And all of these events that I will be telling you about happened on this day, March 30th. On this day in 2009, for the Miami Heat, Alonzo Mourning's jersey was retired. He wore number 33 for them ranging from 1995 when he signed to 2002. After a stint with the Nets, he came back to Miami in 2004, playing to 2008, winning a championship during the 05-06 season with Dwayne Wade and Shaq. I mean, my earliest things of talking about Alonzo Mourning, growing up as a kid, it was, okay, Alonzo Mourning was a member of the Heat. But on NBA Jam, he played for the Hornets, which he was previously there. So it kind of to have that as a long, illustrious career in a simulation universe to being a solid center for very much of his career, it was kind of a meaningful thing for no team to Miami or no player in Miami to ever wear 33 again there. On this day in 1981, the Indiana Hoosiers won the national championship over the North Carolina Tar Heels. So kind of, I'm not 100% sure if Jordan was there at that point, but Isaiah Thomas, who eventually was a bad boy Detroit Piston, was the most outstanding player of that tournament. In 2008, just about 2 hours from me, Nationals Park opened with a 3-2 victory over the Atlanta Braves by the Washington Nationals. 11 years later, the Nationals won their first World Series against the Houston Astros in a 7-game series where the road team won every single game. Ruckus, can you still hear me on this?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Oh, I was waiting for you to kind of have some takes there. But
Yeah,
if we want to
that's my
kind of
bad.
continue.
I was just letting you speak. Because I didn't know but anyways.
But on this day in 2001, the beginning of a swimming legend occurred. Michael Phelps paves the way into becoming the greatest American swimmer in Olympic history in setting the 200 butterfly record at the U.S. World Championship Trials at just 15 years old, the youngest male swimmer to set a world mark at the time. And Michael Phelps also, growing up, about a couple hours away from me in Baltimore, Maryland. So I ended up with a couple of little more local pieces semi-local pieces for sport history, but do any of those have a stick out to you, Ruckus?
Mainly Nationals Park opening, because I remember before it was the Nationals, it was the Expos, I believe. And
Yep.
just seeing when I was playing newer video games at the time, like baseball, of course. seeing the logo changed was a big deal to me because I liked a lot of new and flashy things back in the day as far as just in general video games and graphics and whatnot. And seeing the Nationals logo was cool, but also seeing the stadium was even cooler. Uh, as far as how long it took for the Nationals to become like a dominant team to like go to the playoffs every year and or get farther into the playoffs, not just appear in the playoffs, is impressive. Yes, they won a World Series without Bryce Harper, but they also had about the same characteristics as the 2014 Kansas City Royals team as far as grit and finding a way to win.
I will say for me, I will also go with the 2008 Nationals Park thing as well, because actually I was not out there for that first game against the Atlanta Braves, but I did get to go out as part of a graduation present for high school, and I got to go out to Nationals Park and see them play the Cardinals during that opening year, and have since gotten to go down multiple times to Nationals Park for some ball games down there in DC, because I'm from right there, that close. I mean, couple hours couple hours out, it's not a huge deal, and it's actually very easy to get to from the metro in DC.
Can I ask
And
you a quick question?
yeah, what's up?
What was your favorite baseball park compared from Nationals Park to Camden Yards? Do you like Camden Yards better?
Oh, I've been to both multiple times. Both of them have really a lot of great notable things that kind of stick out. But I would say, as far as like quality of seat, my best ones have been really at Camden Yards, but Nationals Park is not a bad. There's hardly ever a bad spot there. It's easier to get out of, especially if you take the metro in. It's a little there's a few tricks to kind of for how far I live outside of DC to kind of work your way in to Nationals Park a little bit better than it would Camden Yards, because you have to drive your way out for Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, Baltimore, both of them have really, really good views. If you get a good enough spot, you'll end up getting to see the warehouse out in Wright for Camden Yards, and see the stuff up Utah Street. There's a little like like a little measurement row, like a monument row of numerous things out there in Baltimore, which includes a statue of Babe Ruth, because Babe Ruth grew up in Baltimore before becoming a member of the Red Sox and then the Yankees, where he was most iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the funny thing about for me was when it came to stadiums when I was little. For some weird reason, when I would go like watch on the TV, if like my team was on the road, I would think, oh, they're just in my hometown, but they changed the scenery and everything. No. So like if like the Royals went to go play in Chicago, I'd think, oh, that's a pretty cool scenery. Not only until I realized that was wrong was when I actually went to U.S. Cellular Field, what was called U.S. Cellular Field, around middle school time for me to go see the Royals face the White Sox. That
Yeah,
was
because
probably the coolest experience.
I think it's now a guaranteed rate field, but
Yep.
yep. But now that we've kind of shifted ourselves in talking about baseball, we now can actually talk about more baseball. And this is one where we've had numerous times throughout last year playing the 2021 version of this game. And it's our high heat for this week. And
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
more than MLB The Show releasing this week.
Most definitely.
Early access is this Friday, which I will have my copy of, but will not be able to start until after the weekend is over. After the weekend wraps up. It officially releases this Tuesday.
Which means I can get a quick start on getting a better team than yours, if I really wanted to. That's a spoiler alert for now because I pre-ordered the game, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the changes they have with the new announcing team with Chris Singleton and John Boog's Cambae. This is the first game that will be released on Nintendo Switch. Last year was the first year that they brought it beyond PlayStation to Xbox One and Xbox Series S and X, and PlayStation 4 and PS5, of course, because Sony San Diego. But I looked at the Nintendo Switch trailer for this game, and looking at the graphics, I wasn't surprised that it was gonna be downgraded, but my god, it looks like something out of like the PlayStation 3 area or even PlayStation 2 era of just gaming. I mean, if you want something to play on the go and you want to save battery, that's cool and all. I would just rather play it on a next gen console. The Switch is kind of next gen, but I'm a PC snob when it comes to graphics, so I'm just kind of like, what the heck? Like, this looks so much better on Xbox and PlayStation. It's probably a better experience on PlayStation. I haven't really played it on PlayStation since the PlayStation 2 days and PlayStation 3 days. But yes, I am very excited about it.
I technical tested on all three systems, of course. And I think the best possible thing that kind of came out of me technical testing for the Switch, although it was from a version that was before on the Switch, it was a version before what we ended up getting, before what was going to be coming in. It was like, okay, the biggest thing I noticed was frame rates were definitely different. And I'm like, I feel much more comfortable playing this on a more powerful console, just simply for the frame rate, just simply for the frame rates and being able to see things and not have as much input lag, which was kind of the only downfall of playing on the Switch. I'm sure they've done a lot more modifying now since then, but for this to trailblaze into the Nintendo Switch realm, it's going to get more people involved playing the game.
Which also means online co-op is a thing now too, because before it was versus and duels and what have you, and you could even do home run derbies with friends. But now, you could play online co-op with 2 versus 2, so you could have a friend and you play on one team, and a friend or family member play on another team. And even better is when you could do with one more player on each side with a 3v3. I have not tried this out, but it seemed interesting.
I also during the technical test, I got to try out the co-op, and it actually is very enjoyable. What it does is that everything rotates. Defensively, inning wise, you rotate between pitching, infielder, and outfielder if you're doing a 3v3, or pitching and defense if it's 2v2. Hitting goes back and forth. For 2-on-2, for 2v2, if you are not hitting, you are on the base pet. You've got the base runners. In 3v3, if you are the person who just went to bat, you've got the base runners. So they do a great job of alternating so that each player is doing something. And it has its fun moments. And with the co-op, not only are you able to do this with just your ordinary teams, but you also can do it with Diamond Dynasty players. So what each player will do in a Diamond Dynasty setting is that they'll throw in, I think it's like 2 or 3 players, and you'll have those elements play together just like you would in a 3v3 co-op game. And
speaking of dynasties, multi-year March to Octobers, meaning you could go longer than a single season now with March to October, which is very exciting.
And this is the sign of the times where the franchise mode is going to go for MLB The Show. And with this, with being able to do multiple years, it's like, oh, maybe you're playing with this long shot team and you kind of don't have a great season your first year. Oh, now you can shift into like a multi-year build now instead of having to start over like you would in 20 or 21. And now you get to play this March to October out across multiple years and be able to build your, like, say for these long shot teams, do like a progressive rebuild. And it makes that very interesting. I mean, the win now options and elements are still there, but the multi-year March to October thing, and it also does a streamlined season where you're getting to play more key moments. So you're not in franchise mode simulating everything. You actually will be playing the game and still having some interactive elements with your season based on key moments.
Which is something I'm very excited about, because the main thing I didn't like about March to October was just like it was one season pretty much, or it felt like that, and you just kind of had to live with what you had, but you could still carry it out into a franchise mode setting, but it wouldn't be that like intense, like, oh, you could have this trade that's actually realistic and happen, versus if you were just doing a franchise, it would be like, oh, I could trade my worst player for a way better player, and then also have a setting where the budget doesn't matter as far as the franchise goes. You could literally have a franchise budget of in the negatives. You could be millions in debt, and the game won't give a crap about whether or not your franchise can stay afloat. Whereas in March to October, it's just more realistic, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, and that was the biggest qualm that everybody had with March to October, is that it was very much a win now mode. Now with the multi-year, you don't have to worry about that as much, especially if you're playing with a long shot team. And I wouldn't be surprised that, I'm going to give a little bit of a heads up here, that if I'm going to stream stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the first teams I spin on a wheel that I pick up are going to be maybe like a 2 or maybe even a 3-year March to October, just simply because the team might not be as great a shape. When you
there, buddy? Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm still there. Just my screen went black. My screen went black again. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
But with that, it's just like you're kind of not having to sweat it as much.
It'll be interesting to see if like you try and do a March October with the Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: in previous years where I have done the by the win now formula, but maybe now this year it's like, okay, maybe I don't do a win now with them. Maybe I look at another possibility. Because I've pulled the Pirates before. I think I did it in MLB 20, and kind of successfully did it. Back when the Pirates had Josh Bell.
Did you win the World Series?
Yes, I succeeded. Nice. I succeeded with that one. Yep. But now we have, though we are speaking on this before the Diamond Dynasty feature premiere, that is tomorrow, Randy Johnson is one of the primary legends that are going to be in the game. And though there was speculation of whether or not he was actually going to be there, he kind of confirmed, I kind of shored up with that by actually seeing something on his Instagram confirming, hey, he's in the game.
I am really excited to like use him against you and or pretty much any CPU player that I play in Diamond Dynasty, just because of what he's capable of. He's known for being a tall, scrawny dude that can throw the ball really fast and throw strikes.
And killing pigeons?
Well, yeah. You can put that on his resume.
And killing pigeons?
How dare he?
Oh man, but also it's like Randy Johnson just is one of those notable legends. Kind of some other ones along in that list: Ryan Howard, Joe Mauer, Ray Durham, Dontrell Willis, Kirk Gibson, Mike Napoli, Kevin Youkilis, Chase Utley, Mike Mussina, Brian Wilson, J.R. Richard, Jared Weaver, and Justin Morneau. And they will be among the 150 plus, along with, I've seen a couple of the Japanese drawing. There's one like artist that for like the Legend Choice packs that you have that he actually like drew some of the designs. He's already drawn one for Mickey Mantle and Ricky Henderson, as far as I know. So both of them are.
Is that the same graphic artist that did the pre-order stuff for Shohei?
Yes.
That stuff looks really cool. I like that.
Those look incredibly dope, and I'm sure that the card designs for some of these other things like down the line with Diamond Dynasty are going to look great, especially if they got him to do some more long term.
Yeah, I'm definitely more excited for Justin Morneau, Joe Mauer, and Kevin Youkilis, Jared Weaver. I cannot wait to see Jared Weaver's stuff because he looked like he was always hiding something under that glove. And also just Justin Morneau, remembering him, not realizing he was like a Canadian baseball player, but also just in general just a powerhouse with the Minnesota Twins, and then slowly going to the Rockies and whatnot. But I just remember him being a freaking beast against the Royals when we were in our dark times. But also Joe Mauer, one of the legendary catchers of his time. I'm excited because it's been a while since we've seen Joe Mauer on a MLB The Show game, since like MLB 12 The Show or MLB 11.
And speaking of Joe Mauer, you not only will be able to see him in the game, you will also be able to hear him in the game. As your ball player in the Road to the Show narrative journeys through working up the minors and the majors, one of the notable names that will be in the podcast feature throughout the mode that they started last year and bringing in more names into the mix for it is Joe Mauer. Like, Joe Mauer is actually going to be a part of it. And they were able to like jam pack a lot of different things. And it's kind of like there were some things that were very similar to like how, remember when Madden had those Tony Bruno segments?
I believe so. How far along was it in? Because that sounds familiar, but I just didn't know how far back that went in Madden. Because
mid 2000s.
Yeah, was it mainly when it came to like the
franchise mode, I believe.
I remember hearing something about that. Yes, I remember that.
Yep, but you've got like stuff like Ken Griffey Jr. being involved, Sean Casey. So what Sony SDS was able to do is that they were able to bring so many different faces that they could bring in for this podcast type thing to update your player and kind of and kind of also implement some things that you could also apply to playing baseball in real life. And it's really good, like really such a great thing that they've done. And multiple ball players kind of progression type things, the separation of offline and online, different perks, equipments, different little things, miscellaneous challenges. I have, when I first was playing MLB The Show, I kind of shied away from Diamond Dynasty and then was swayed. But when I was not playing Diamond Dynasty, I was really taking advantage of Road to the Show. And now I'm starting to kind of get, now that they've kind of fleshed out a lot of these things that were kind of like a little bit peeving for me the year before, and I just stayed away. I'm like magnetized to now everything in this right now.
Most definitely, because Diamond Dynasty, my favorite thing is just cranking out the moments and getting all those new cards and trying to see how they fare against others in Diamond Dynasty, and also playing against you and other friends that in the future will get the game.
Yep. I mean, those will be fun. I mean, also co-op is an option as well, that we actually, instead of competing against each other, being able to play together. So there are so many different things that we have, especially coming up in the spring and summer, that there's possibilities of doing.
I'm very excited, most definitely. But I love the grind mainly when it comes to just the challenges. Like, I used to kind of just be like, like I used to be bombarded by it at the beginning, but then later on I realized, hey, like the game gives you pretty much everything for free. There's no reason to use stubs unless you really have to.
Well, the stubs now. I kind of took this philosophy with stubs. The only reason why you would ever need to buy stubs is if you're really, really desperate to try and get things as quickly as you possibly can. I'm in no hurry. I'd rather be playing the game rather than trying to spend all that time working on market. But with that, you play the game, you earn the stubs, you get packs, so you don't have to spend your money on packs. Don't have to spend your hard-earned stubs on packs. If you want to play, if you're wanting to pick a player, just save up the stubs for it and then pick the player off the market. Work the system, like kind of have a little bit of knowledge of working the system, but work the system in a way that you can be able to complete your collections. And don't worry about the big name players that are going to cost like a crap ton of stubs early on, unless you manage to luck out and get one. Just play and grind your way through.
Speaking of collections, are you ready to do the weekly stud?
That's going to be actually to close out. That's actually going to be to close out. We're going to use those as closeout points, but
I meant the word. My bad.
yeah. Like Ruckus trying to really have to go on himself now. But to kind of pick up from where we left off last week, we actually had we actually simulated that build a team lineup that we did last week. And what we did was that we ran a best of 3 series with our War Room teams from last week, 3-inning games, and Ruckus got me. He beat me 2-1. He beat me 2-1, mostly because of my greed.
And mostly because I was throwing straight up hot dog water, as you call it.
Oh yeah, it was not. It was so bad. He was throwing garbage the whole time.
Which, honestly, if you want a cheat sheet to MLB The Show as far as Diamond Dynasty, just throwing it out of the zone so much, and then maybe every once in a while giving him a good like treat in the zone is good. But like, if you want to be a jerk like I was, just throw him mostly in the dirt. Just keep him on his toes. Keep him or her on their toes. Like that, and just getting lucky with like hitting homers or just getting those nice hits also helps too. And there were times even on my end on defense where I thought I wasn't going to get through an inning, and somehow, some way I did. The first game in particular, I got very unlucky trying to throw a pitch that went out of the yard. The second game, I got really lucky with defense and also obviously some offense. The third game was just me taking the knowledge I got from the second game and just applying more pressure on the third game.
but let's call the spade here. The home run that I hit to win game 1 was with my worst overall player in the lineup, with Kyle Higashioka.
I mean, Kyle is pretty good as far as just like a defensive catcher for the Yankees. And when I don't remember if it was I think it was a slider. I threw a slider down the middle, and I was trying to do it like all the way up high in the zone, thinking I was being slick, and then you just went and just conked it like right out of the yard. And I'm just like, are you kidding me right now?
For the record, that one was also a perfect. That one was also, yeah, it was a perfect.
Yeah, I was a bit like upset about it, and then eventually I was just like, whatever, we're gonna make this a best of 2. Going out this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but the first one took 5 innings to get there.
Oh yeah.
But the second one was one of those where you won that one off of one pitch. That one was a one pitch, like one bad pitch that you just happened to go and get.
Whereas for me, it was all bad pitches. Just like pitching it to you.
But I mean, that one had I not realized it was Acuna throwing the ball kind of like ready to whip it in there, I probably would not have tried to push for third. Probably wouldn't have tried to push for third. And then in the last game, it was me trying, like, you actually getting like me caught stealing. Like, trying to catch.
That was just lucky in itself, because I figured you probably stole that base, and then all of a sudden the ref was just like, "Yep, he's out," and I'm just like, "What?"
Oh,
I'm sorry, dude.
Like,
there were times where I was just like, "Dude, I am sorry. I feel like such a douchebag right now because I got something out of thin air." It's kind of like it's kind of like that feeling where like the Saints got screwed out of the Rams to like go to the Super Bowl, and like clearly there was pass interference. But here in this game, it was just kind of like oh crap, like I feel bad for this, but at the same time, it is what it is.
I think also normally I get like one step of lead, and I think somehow when I went to set up for it, by the time I was getting ready to take a step of lead, the jump may have been late and it didn't register before the pitch was thrown, and that's rough. That's baseball. So
yeah, when you say the jump, it reminds me of that song Jumpman with Future and Drake, where it goes Jumpman, 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 Jumpman.
Yeah, I knew where you were going. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what that reminded me of. And it's always fun playing with friends on Diamond Dynasty, no matter who it is. And yes, we're gonna try and relive that experience sometime. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll get some run back on it. But now that we've kind of got the simulation from last week and recapping that out of the way, our war room today is going to be a little different. When, of course, I was in high school, The late Stuart Scott, of course, hosted a show involving Howie Schwab and a whole bunch of generic sports like people who had sports knowledge, called Stump the Schwab. And there was a segment where it was Schwab showdowns before the final showdown, where they would have different categories of things, and we're actually going to be playing one of them to an extent. The difference is that instead of having lineups from certain things where they had to name the alma maters of the players involved, we're just doing a challenge with some of that. And the game title is called Alma Matters. So what Ruckus and I both did is that the theme for this is players in NBA players and legends who did play college basketball. So LeBron and Kobe, Dwight Howard are all disqualified from.
Even Kevin Garnett.
Yep, even Kevin Garnett, though we know he went to Farragut Academy, was also disqualified from this. So what we have is that we're going to start with 10. We're going to start at 10. Let's start at 10 that we've each got down. We have to correctly guess the school that they played for. Most correct wins. If there's a tie, tiebreakers based on other ones that we have acquired will be used, and we'll probably get those as like a penalty shoot where it may be like first, like best of 5, win by 2 type ordeal. So if I'm up 3-1, that's it. We have lifelines for the first 10, limited to just 2 times where we can ask what conference the answer is in, or either what conference or another famous alumni from this school if we know any. So, Ruckus, would you like to go first, or would you want me to do the?
I feel like mine are gonna be pretty easy compared to what you probably have, but you pick.
Okay, I'll go ahead and fire one off to you first. The first one that I will throw to you here is Vince Carter.
Man, just hearing that name and just thinking of what he accomplished as a NBA player, man. UConn?
Incorrect. The correct answer is actually North Carolina.
Wow. It's because like hearing his name and like seeing that he was a New Jersey Net and a Toronto Raptor, I was thinking more like East Coast.
Yeah, which you were in the right direction. You just went too far north.
You right.
You went too far north. All right, my turn.
All right, here we go. Rudy Gay.
San Antonio Spur. I think I'm also going to say UConn.
You are correct.
All right. Not only was this guy that I'm going to throw an NBA player, but is also an NBA coach. And I will also have an interesting story involving this guy as well after I say it to you here. Doc Rivers.
I believe it was Georgetown?
Formerly of the right conference, but incorrect. The correct answer for him is actually Marquette.
That's right, because, like, I remember, like, when I was looking at my sheet that also another player was also formerly from Marquette, but I didn't know if I wanted to from the same college or not.
But an interesting story about Doc Rivers is that when I worked at the paper, my old boss, my former sports editor, actually is also a Marquette alum, and he also was right there in Marquette, right around roughly the same time that Doc Rivers was in there, was there at Marquette, but he would always know him as Glenn, as in his actual first name, Glenn Doc Rivers.
Which is funny because you don't really hear Glenn; it's just Doc, or you just hear Rivers, Coach Rivers.
Yep.
All right, you ready for my next one?
Yep.
All right, Greg Popovich.
Oh.
He was a former player and now coach.
Coached at Army. I think you've actually got me on this one. Probably a little early for me to call for a lifeline. I think I'm going to say West Point. He was at Army.
That is correct. I didn't know that either, to be honest, because I thought he would have been, like, kind of in the same boat as the stars of now, like Karl Anthony Towns, or just in general other players like Steph Curry and whatnot, thinking that they would be in bigger schools, because that's just how it was when we grew up.
I mean, it's a service academy. It's a U.S. service academy, so, and I'm pretty sure that with all the international type of flair type of things that Greg Popovich has, of course, his time with the U.S. military would have had a whole lot to do with it.
Yeah.
All right, so my third one to you, Klay Thompson.
For some reason, I'm thinking of a California school. Alright, how does the phone a friend work?
You can just kind of say like kind of ask like one extra question about like kind of gearing toward the school.
Okay, which conference?
Pac-12. So you were kind of in the right idea with with kind of the West Coast. It is a Pac-12 school. And I will throw this to you to kind of also give you a little more aid. Kind of just a little bit of an extra bit to go along with the conference there. A Pac-12 school not in California.
That definitely helps. I'm gonna go. Wait, no, that's South Carolina.
South Carolina?
Yeah, I don't know geography that well, apparently.
You are on the wrong coast with that one. I will give you a mulligan and try that again. Try that one again.
This I went to college, I swear. Can you say it wasn't California? I'm gonna be honest with you, my first thought was UCLA, but that's not, that's California. Golly. I'm just gonna give up because I don't know.
Washington State.
Ah. Because, like, I remember on TV they were talking about how he went to high school in, like, San Jose.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
completely forgot about him being in, like, Washington State. I didn't even know.
Washington State. Not Washington. Washington State, as in, like, the Cougars. All right. So currently, what is it now? Was it 3-0? 3-0, and we're through 4, or is it 2? Or is it 2-0 and we're through? We're through 3.
2-0.
Yeah, 2-0 through or 2-0, and you've just finished your third. All right.
All right. How about Darrell Arthur?
Ooh. Darrell Arthur. Why do I think this is an obscure NBA player? Like one that's not necessarily like a huge name. This is only round 3. I don't necessarily want to, and I've already got a lead. I don't necessarily want to use a lifeline, at least at this point. See a Tennessee Volunteer?
Repeat that.
Tennessee?
Negatory. I will give you I'll give you a mulligan as well.
I probably won't take the mulligan at this point. I probably wouldn't take the mulligan on that one. I missed it.
All right. He played in the Big 12 as a KU Jayhawk as part of the 2008 National Champions.
Oh wow, that I forgot. Wait, did he make the NBA?
I think for a couple of years, and then went to the underground. My guess is he went to the G League and then didn't make it, and then just started doing managerial positions. And I believe he's a manager director somewhere at KU already.
Oh, okay.
From what I read recently.
All right.
So now you're 2-1, and I am.
You're 0 for 3.
0 for 3. I'm an 0 for.
Well, let me throw a little bit of an easier one to you. Derrick Rose.
Memphis.
Yep. Yeah, let's get you on the board.
I know that because I was a national. We beat them in the national championship game.
Yeah, that's why I was like, okay, let me get one to put you on the board.
Who was their center? Because I remember.
I can't think of who the center was for that.
Because I remember seeing the advertisements on the news about how him and Rose were just throwing alley-oops to each other.
Yeah.
That might have also been Georgetown, but pretty
But
much
I
any
also,
team can do that.
but I will also say that every single name that I've put down here was generally like a well-known name. I put like household names in.
All right, you
All
ready?
right. Yep. Round 4.
Let's go with Chris Paul.
I laugh. I actually had him on my list as Wake Forest.
Dang it. Yes, you are correct.
Yeah, he was he was on my list as well, but I knew that one prior to putting him. Hmm. Let me see here. JJ Redick.
North Carolina.
You picked the wrong side of that rivalry.
Duke.
He went to Duke. You had the right idea. You just picked the wrong side of that rivalry.
All right. For my next act, Cambae Mutumbo.
He went to a college in the United States?
Yes.
And I still got 2 lifelines as well. Because I know that mostly he was just talked about from the Congo. Nobody really ever
I
talked about the
mean,
college he actually
technically
attended.
speaking, Mo Bamba was from
Yeah, but he actually prior to getting drafted was actually mentioned as far as his college being Texas.
yeah, but he was from, I can't put my tongue on it, but it was it's a tropical island somewhere. The Bahamas. He's from the Bahamas.
Yeah.
I think
Round.
Mutombo was from around Africa, I
He,
think, right?
he was Africa. He was Zaire, pretty much now as the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But uh, do I take conference? I'll use my first one here. Conference. The conference of the school.
I believe it was between Pac-12 or SEC. I don't remember. I don't know the conferences very well. I just know the colleges.
So it would be
I'll give you
that
2 chances as an equivalent to that.
that. What's bad is that the first one I was
Actually,
looking.
give me a second.
So the problem is that you saying that you kind of giving me that as kind of that favorable of a lifeline. That's like 2 different ends of the
Okay.
cut.
They're in the Big East. My bad.
Oh, they're in the Big East.
As listeners can hear,
Are we
I
talking?
don't know anything about. I know a little bit about college basketball, but not a whole lot.
Are we talking former Big East or current Big East? Because honestly, I'm looking at this probably.
Former.
I was probably saying like Georgetown, but because I can because if that was like current Big East, because I think Georgetown might still be current Big East.
I really don't know.
Ugh. But I think I'm gonna roll with it here. Georgetown.
You are correct.
Okay.
Dang it! I thought that would be like my get out of jail card.
What is that now? My 4 for 5 or 3 for 5?
I
I think I'm
think
at
you
4.
only missed one, so 4 for 5. 1
4.
for 5.
Hmm.
So it's your turn now.
Going with an old legend here, Wilt Chamberlain.
Joke's on you. I had him as one of my guys on my list, and he went to Kansas.
Yep. I figured as much that you were gonna think. Yep.
2 for 6.
Yep. I knew that was gonna be one that you were probably gonna know.
Uh, Personally, before looking it up earlier when we were doing our list, I kind of forgot because I always knew him as the guy that was playing for the Lakers, and for some reason I thought he was played for the Celtics as well, but that was Bill Russell.
Yeah.
Um,
He
Go ahead.
he was a warrior primarily, like
True.
Philadelphia, San Francisco Warriors before becoming a Laker.
True story. All right, you ready for mine?
Yep.
All right.
At least the dead air at this point's good for editing.
Most definitely. Trying to think here because there are some players, but I don't know if you would know them or not. Uh, but based on this whole quiz here, you seem to know a lot more than me, so I'm just trying to like figure out which one you would possibly not know. Um, Baron Davis.
That is one that just does not stick out. Or at least would not stick out immediately. For some reason, I'm definitely thinking he was an East Coast. He was an East Coast guy. East Coast guy outside of the ACC. Maybe not necessarily Big East material unless he went to like a very, very lower end Big East school. Wasn't in Kentucky's radar. Patino wasn't at Louisville at the point. Ohio State.
Incorrect. It is California.
He went to he went to Berkeley. Oh man, I had a.
I had to look it up to see what conference he was in case you had a.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't going to burn a lifeline on that because we're only at like round 6. Ugh.
So you
It was like,
are
yeah,
4 for 6 now,
like
right?
4 for 6, yeah. Yeah. Had another player that went there, but had another player that went to actually that school, but not him. Go with this. Let's go with the Chuckster. The round mound of rebound, Charles Barkley. Where did Sir Charles Barkley go to school?
Um, I'm gonna say Auburn.
Yep. Yep, that makes you 3 for 7.
All right.
This one got
Um,
close quick too.
yeah. How about Chris Bosh?
Another one that was on my list, Georgia
God,
Tech.
dang it. Yes.
Another one that happened to be on my list. David Robinson.
Yep, I had that one on my list too. U.S. Naval Academy.
Yep, the Admiral. Yep, the Admiral.
I thought he was on another college, to be honest, but I read that on a website and I was like, "There's no way he played for the Navy."
Well, here was the thing. Consider his nickname.
True, true, true.
Yeah, the nickname clearly would lead you right to Navy.
All right.
This is round.
How about Steve Nash?
I was about to throw that at you.
God dang
Funny
it.
enough, Santa Clara.
Correct.
Santa Clara. Hmm. Gonna go with the pistol. Pete Maravich.
Um, I'm gonna use my second lifeline. What conference was he in?
SEC.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is LSU.
Yep. It is LSU. weirdly enough, normally when you would think SEC, the first one that would come to mind for college basketball, other than LSU, I would have almost been Florida.
But Florida hasn't been good since like Joakim Noah.
Yeah, Joakim Noah and Al Horford.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2. You're at 5 for 9. So we are at 9.
So are you at?
I have 9.
Dang. Wait, I thought you missed one though, right?
No. I'm saying like out of all the ones,
Okay.
like we're on round 9.
All right. Next one, I'm gonna pick Fred Hoiberg.
Fred Hoiberg. Duke.
No.
Hmm.
Iowa State.
Wait, he coached there. But wow, he actually played. I was like, okay. I was
I was
like,
about to
wait.
say because I was hoping I
I
wouldn't
knew,
have a technical difficulty with the website being like, oh, he played there, but really, actually, he just coached there. Like,
yeah, that was what I was. That's what I was looking at. That's what I was looking at. I was like, wait. I remembered him coaching there, but I was like, wait, did he play there too?
you got bamboozled.
That was a good one. Now, let's see. Round 10. Hakeem Olajuwon.
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Man, that sounds like somewhere in California. Like, as far as his. I don't know. To me, it sounds like a more recent player for some reason. But that name sounds very unique, which means there is a very unique college that you probably went to that I never heard of. So, this is kind of a wild card for me, but University of Houston?
You got it. He was one of the members of Phi Slamma Jam. He was one of the members of Phi Slamma Jamma. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 6. You have 6. Where am I at right now going into the last?
Um,
should be at 6.
Um,
I should be at 6.
how about Andrew Bogut?
Andrew Bogut. I've only missed 3 at this point, right?
I believe so.
And I still have a lifeline left. Conference.
Give me 1 second. Pac-12.
First shot, I think he was a Utah Ute.
Dang it, you got it.
Yeah, he was a Ute. All right.
Out of curiosity, did you have Phil Jackson on your list?
No.
Ooh.
I did not have Phil Jackson on my list.
Who do you think he went to though, or what college he went to?
I remember looking at this, but I'm like, okay, I probably would have, because I think Pat Riley was Kentucky. Yeah, I think Pat Riley was Kentucky. I would have told you like an SEC. I would have thought like an SEC school.
Do you want me to spoil it?
Yeah, go for it.
North Dakota.
Oh, it was like North Dakota. Yeah, that was. Let's see. Some of the other ones I had. Some of the other ones I know I had Hassan Whiteside. I had Hassan Whiteside on my list. I had Del Curry on my list. Like some of the ones that.
So I had a bunch of KU players. Like I had Andrew Wiggins. I had Paul Pierce.
I knew Wiggins. I had Paul Pierce.
I had Kemba Walker, which was from Kentucky.
No, Kemba Walker was UConn.
I thought he was okay.
No, Kemba Walker was UConn.
I had Mario Chalmers, Carmelo Anthony.
I had Chalmers. I had Melo.
I had Tim Duncan.
I had Duncan on my list.
I had Mo Bamba and Taco Fall.
I think Taco Fall was Central Florida.
Yep. I had Greg Odom.
Or Greg Oden was Ohio State. I knew that.
And Shaquille O'Neal.
I had Shaq on my list as well.
I figured.
Here were a couple of my other ones I had. I had, of course, Hassan Whiteside, Marshall, Del Curry. We know where Steph went. We know where Seth went. But where did Del go?
North Carolina?
No. Del was at Virginia Tech.
Oh. Because didn't Steph go to... Or Seth Curry went to Duke, right?
Seth was Duke and Steph was Davidson.
Well, I didn't think his father went to Virginia Tech for some reason.
Yeah. I had Devin Booker.
Oof, wasn't he a Kentucky player?
He was a Kentucky Wildcat.
I had Karl Anthony Towns as well.
I knew that one even without looking at it. Now, take a wild guess at who you think the Cal basketball player I had. If I didn't have Baird Davis and I said I had another Cal Who do you think I had? That
Because UCLA was Russell Westbrook's school.
Was also Reggie Miller's.
Gosh dang. I have no idea, to be honest.
The interesting thing was that when I said I had a Cal player that was not Baron Davis, Jason Kidd. I had Jason Kidd.
That's right. For some reason, I was just blanking on that because some of these you don't think like, hey, like so and so went to this school or that school. Because when we were earlier talking about this before the pod,
Yeah.
we were like giving examples and stuff like that, like for Seth Curry and Steph and whatnot.
Yeah.
And man, there were some things I didn't know if you knew, but dang, this was fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this one was a fun one. I think what will be even better is that we actually can do this with the NFL. I think the NFL is going to be a nice, fun little future thing for this.
I'm excited for the future.
All right. So now we go to. It's time for the weekly studs and duds.
All right, you want me to go first on this one, or you want to go?
Go ahead and go first with your stud.
All right, so my stud in particular is not a person, but more of a bigger thinking outside the box topic at hand. And that is the Bills getting a $1.4 billion stadium plan in Orchard Park, which their lease goes to a 30-year lease in Orchard Park.
That's a pretty good. That is a solid thing. I mean, that secures the Bills for a future in staying in the Buffalo area and more tables being crushed and crumbled in.
And more Bud Light and what have you.
I think even with that, that eventually leads to the tables. You know how inebriated behavior goes.
Bills Mafia, baby.
All right, so my stud here, I actually have a tie. I couldn't decide between the two right off, so both of them kind of ended up getting it. If I were to kind of say based on the standard of a person, I'm going to say Christian Pulisic. Now, for many of you who may kind of think this is a little obscure, this is a soccer player. This guy currently plays for I squad in the Premier League in Chelsea, and as an American, he is a member of the senior team, and in a World Cup qualifier, scored a hat trick that has all but secured the U.S.'s qualification for the World Cup in Qatar here later on this fall. But what's just as good if I kind of didn't go the specific person route, I'm actually going to go with an entire state. The great state of North Carolina is a weekly stud this week, with the state of North Carolina having a final matchup between two of its major college conference rivals in Duking, North Carolina, in a Final Four matchup. The first time this has happened in history. It is such a historic moment that country singer Eric Church decided to cancel his concert this Saturday just to watch it.
Yeah, that's very insane.
Not even kidding. I mean, the dud at this point, I mean, though I could kind of jokingly say recently, dud would be fans of Eric's Church planning to go in Texas this weekend. But I have a better dud than that. And that dud is Jesse Winker's time as a play-by-play announcer. I saw this the other day on Bleacher Report's Twitter and just could not get over myself with it. Starts delving into it, breaks out into this play-by-play type of thing mid-interview, no less. 2 pitches into this thing, the pitcher on the hill gives up a dinger, and he just says, okay, that does it. I'm done with this play-by-play thing. Screw this, I'm out.
Yeah, it sounds like it's one of those kind of deals at the end of the day. I don't blame him. Like, you don't know how to kind of get a grasp on what just happened. I would probably quit too. Like, it's just one of those things that you experience, and it's one of those fun things that you can fill in on in spring training.
And it's what's interesting is that he's like talking. Hear the crack of the bat, the ball go over the wall, and he's just like, Jesse, what did you do? What did you do?
I mean, there's a whole mix of things that could have happened, but whatever happened. Are you ready for my dud?
Yep.
So, as Chiefs fans, we probably already know this by now, the funniness of Twitter and how things have become. So, my weekly dud is on a player that was recently acquired by the Chiefs and a free agent signing for a 1-year deal, a safety that is going to possibly replace Daniel Sorensen, as Daniel Sorensen has signed with the Saints. Deon Bush with his Twitter welcome to KC. I call it more of a warm welcome, but that's a little bit of sarcasm there if you couldn't tell. So he started by sending out a tweet, Chiefs Kingdom, like any other athlete out there that has been signed by the Chiefs Kingdom, including Rojo and other players, as an example. Deon Bush did his welcoming at the same time, around the time that Tyreek Hill was traded to the Miami Dolphins. And as a Chiefs fan, and many other Chiefs fans out in the Kansas City area, were devastated to hear that Tyreek Hill was being one of the better players in the NFL for 6 years, as he started, till now, got traded to the Dolphins because of altercations with contract negotiations and just being fed up. And honestly, I was fed up the day when I heard the news. But the same day that Tyreek Hill gets traded, Deon Bush gets signed. And Deon Bush was just trying to be all coy and chill and be like, hey, what's up, Chiefs Kingdom? I'm your new guy. He also later said 2 hours later, after the fact, he was saying, hey, I'll come back later when it's at a better time and y'all have had your moment and chilled. Then the next day, he comes in and he asks, hey, is it good to come out and say hello? And then all of Chiefs Kingdom, pretty much, as far as the sports reporters and just the big Chiefs, you get the picture. The Chiefs news people were saying, hey, it's safe now, like, you can hang out and relax and whatnot. But yeah, wrong place at the wrong time. That's why I call it a warm welcome.
Yeah, man, just the unfortunate ability sometimes it takes to read a room. But I think that really, in terms of that, I think it was just he really didn't know what was going on.
Which is very hard for players nowadays, because you don't know the mindset of the player, too. They could be on Twitter just, like, chilling, or they could just be playing games or doing something like doing a normal like just errand or daily tasks that they have to do in their life. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just like, yeah, how we doing? And it's just like, not a good time.
Anywho,
And now we have the Prognosticators Corner, where we actually are going to predict our end results for the Final Four. Who will win the national championship? Is it going to be Duke, Carolina, Kansas, or Villanova? Ruckus, let's see what you got.
my prediction is Kansas versus North Carolina in the national championship as they defeat Villanova, who has had recently a injury with one of their players, which is a very serious one, in a torn lip
It was torn
TCL.
Achilles.
Oh, torn Achilles. I couldn't remember if it was a TCL or ACL. They all kind of jumbled together at some point, but one of your major players is out with one of those kind of injuries where it takes them out for a long period of time. It's kind of hard to come back as the morale of the team mostly goes down. But KU is red hot right now, and you know me, I was more trying to I wouldn't really say gaslight them, but be like, hey, like they're probably not gonna make it very far. I even told my friends at work, like, hey, like they're probably not getting to the Elite Eight. And then they got to the Elite Eight. And now they're in their Final Four. And they're looking pretty dangerous compared to other years I've seen them go. So, with that, Kansas versus North Carolina. Back in 2008, when they went for their national championship run, they beat North Carolina in the regionals to go against the next big thing. And that eventual next big thing was Memphis. And we know how that panned out with Derrick Rose against Derrick Rose. With Mario Chalmers shooting one of the biggest shots of his career as a college player with his buddy Darrell Arthur and his other his other guard and Shareem Collins, I believe. That trio will be etched in KU Jayhawk basketball history. And I think that KU is going to beat North Carolina the same way they beat them in 2008.
I am going to say this. I do believe that Kansas will make it to the national championship. However, strangely enough, I'm going to have Duke winning it all, allowing Coach K to ride off into the sunset with a championship. I think the Duke out of the four teams that are in the Final Four is in the best position to win it all. And to have your rivalry game on top of that, to have Coach K get one last matchup with North Carolina and one last major matchup with Kansas, and beating them both to kind of eventually have him ride off into the sunset and let him retire on top and in style. I think that's ultimately how this story is how this chapter really is going to close.
This kind of reminds me of the time that the Harbaughs played in the Super Bowl, where it was the 49ers versus the Ravens, and they were really close. And it kind of makes me feel like that the same way with North Carolina and Duke, because they're both really big powerhouses, just kind of like the Ravens were against the 49ers. And I see what you're saying with Coach K, because it's his last year. It was kind of the same way with Ray Lewis and the Ravens. It was his last year, and then he rode off into the sunset with the Super Bowl Lombardi Trophy.
Peyton Manning did it too.
Ditto.
Peyton Manning did it. John Elway did it. So I think it kind of counts for something that, yeah, there's some great icons in the sporting world that there's always some sort of way that they can just ride off into the sunset.
And also one other underdog that also recently rode into the sunset with a Super Bowl victory was Andrew Whitworth.
Yeah. Like, there are just some athletes and icons in the sport world that kind of the only way that you really feel like it sits right is for them to ride off into the sunset with a championship. And Whitworth, on top of that, also got Walter Payton Man of the Year award as well. So that's really leaving in style.
Most definitely. All
But
right.
we'll see. Well, we'll see how that ends up coming together. Ruckus, take us out.
All right. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching the show, or really mostly listening, because there is no watching. It's mostly listening. This is a podcast.
At least not yet, anyway.
Thank you for listening to Ruckus and the Menace. My name is Ruckus.
And I'm Menace the Menace.
We'll catch you later in another episode of Ruckus and the Menace. But for now, let us know how you feel about MLB The Show 22 coming up in a couple days, and also what your thoughts are on March Madness as a whole, and whether or not you think things could have been better or worse as far as the brackets. Anyways, have a good night, have a good day, bye-bye.